Alright, well this looks dark as hell from the trailer and sounds dark as hell, so I cannot wait for this one. Did I put on American Pie? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to 31 Days of Horror. I am Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. This is The Black String, released in 2018, and this stars Malcolm in the Middle, Frankie Muniz. 2018, this is a psychological horror to the max, and it definitely gets under the skin, no pun intended, and definitely hits hard on the psychological terror, I must say. Agent Cody Banks, Frankie Muniz's performance is absolutely amazing. I promise that's my last joke. I can't help it. I'm sorry. This is like the first time I've ever seen Frankie Muniz in an adult role or a horror role, so bear with me. Frankie Muniz plays a kid named Jonathan, and Jonathan is working at this liquor store, kind of a dead-end job, well, really dead-end job, but he's doing like 60 hours a week. He's very determined to make money, but he's still just making ends meet. Doesn't have the most promising life ahead of him. He's just kind of living day by day, and lives by himself. One time after work, he goes home and he is watching TV, and then this commercial comes up with one of those 1-900 numbers where you call and you chat with singles or whatnot, like a hot singles hotline or whatever you want to call it, which I was very surprised to see because I thought those things already died out in the 90s. And I'm like, does this take place in the 90s? It doesn't, because everybody has, modern cell phones and everything. So clearly, I guess he was just bored, but he does end up calling this number. He goes to work. He says he has a date. He says he met this girl on this phone chat line or whatever, and his buddy is obviously laughing at him, but he goes on this date. He meets this girl named Dina. Dina is very forward, to say the least. What do you expect from the situation, though? So they go to a diner. They end up going back to his place afterwards, and she is very forward, and she kind of very much makes things happen, you could say. And then the next day she's gone, and he wakes up with a really big rash on his body, basically all over his stomach area and groin. And he's wondering what the hell's going on. So he's freaking out. He goes to his doctor to check this out, and his doctor says that to not fear, the absolute worst right away. Gives him some medication or whatnot, and then he says he'll get the results in a couple days. After this, a lot of weird shit starts to happen. You get a little bit of a sense that this kid is not the most stable mentally. This is a huge, huge character piece on psychosis and schizophrenia for sure. It's very hard to watch. It's an extremely sad film. It's way more sad than it is horrific. Pretty much the entire thing, that nothing that's going on is very supernatural or real. As much as the film tries to lure that way in advertisement, you can definitely tell that everything that's happening is happening in his head. It's very, very apparent. His parents are extremely supportive, at least as much as they can be, and they want to help him as much as they can, and they even move him back home, and they do what they can. They do what they know how to do, by keeping the keys away from him and all that stuff, and taking sharp objects away and stuff like that, which I can only imagine how hard it can be. I understand mental illness very well, because I've studied it and know people who have been through it. So I get it. I get how hard it can be for everybody, not just the person going through it, but everybody else around. But one thing I have to say about Jonathan's character in this film is that he does not get help when he needs it. He's very determined that everything that is going on is real, and there's this whole witch subplot, and he thinks there's witches, eventually kidnapping this girl that he met named Dina, and she's been marked by them, and now he's been marked by them, and there's a point where he carries around this dagger-looking thing that is straight out of it looks like a dagger from medieval times, like really unholy shit. And there's a point where he runs away from home because he thinks his parents are trying to poison him with pills, and then he basically goes homeless for a good 20 minutes to half an hour of the whole film. And it's really depressing. It's more depressing than it is horrific, that's for sure. He tries to find Dina, even though he has a hard time finding her. You wonder if Dina is even real the whole time. Probably not, because he keeps on going to the place where he apparently picked Dina up, and there's these people that live in the home that he believes to be witches and weird, and he has this one guy dressed in like a black suit with a black fedora that keeps appearing to him, and he does not know at all how to differentiate reality from fiction. He has this guy that he works with too, named Eric, that I mentioned, and Eric is actually a very supportive person. At one point, he ends up having to call the cops on him when Frankie Muniz or Jonathan shows up at his previous job where he used to work, and starts to spiel this whole story about witches and witchcraft, and if if the cops don't arrest these people, that he's going to have to destroy them. And Eric's just like, okay, well, for your own good, I'm just going to have to call the cops. And then the last third act of the film basically takes place in a mental ward, and just leads up to a really, really heavy ending. That all, wraps around mental illness, basically. So it's a tough watch. But I don't know about the dialogue. Like, the dialogue seems a little bit silly sometimes because the people around him don't necessarily understand that he's, sick in the head and suffering. They actually think that a lot of things that he does is because he wants to, kind of thing. And I don't know, like, if the characters are supposed to be written that way or not, but I was definitely watching, and I'm wondering, the characters didn't always seem to speak to Jonathan very intelligently and understand his situation. That's the only kind of nitpick I would have with the film. I guess it's realistic still, but I just thought I would mention that. But this film was definitely, like, aside from the punk rock opening that totally did not fit the theme of this film whatsoever. I was like, what is going on? But then, like, 5 minutes later, it dives right into the dark themes of the film. So that was short lived, but I still found it funny. That's why I made the intro the way it was. But yeah, this definitely is a very heavy handed depiction on mental illness for sure. And then he meets this, not psychic, but this spiritual lady, and she just ends up messing his head up even more. Who's to know if she was, real as well, or a figment of his imagination? Nobody knows. But the one thing about the end too is how in the hell he got this dagger into the mental ward. That wasn't explained, and that's definitely a plot hole that makes you wonder and doesn't make sense at all, because there's no way in hell he would be able to get that thing into a mental ward. But for the theme of the film, it works all right. I'm gonna say this is like a middle of the road film, like production wise and directing wise and writing. Like, the screenplay is it's okay, I guess. But the themes of the film are really, really heavy, and what the film's going for is really, really deep and dark. And like I said, more depressing and more sad than it is horrific, I would say. Frankie Muniz's performance as Jonathan is actually really, really good. I was impressed with his performance because I haven't seen anything like this from him ever. So kudos to him on this one. The black string was, it hit hard, that's for sure. And yeah, so that's what I got on the black string, released in 2018. And yeah, that's day 22. So subscribe to Marvin Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more. This is 31 Days of Horror. Until next time, take care and cheers.